Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. This is Project 303 in the USS North Carolina. Things are not going well for him and his surviving teammate in the USS Colorado. They're behind on points, there are bare seconds of this game left, and there are 2 enemy ships that they need to find and sink in order to win because there isn't enough time left to win by capping. They have no idea where the enemy carrier is. They're being harassed by the enemy carrier's aircraft. They also have no idea where the enemy Ibuki is. He's significantly faster than both of them, he hasn't been seen for some time, and there's an entire ocean for him to hide in. All the Ibuki needs to do to win this game is wait 50 seconds, and it's game over. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever for him to start shooting and give his position away. But the thing is, some people just can't help trying to win harder than they already are. So naturally, that's exactly what the Ibuki does.
Battle stations! Battle stations!
Order returning to ship. Enemy cruiser sunk.
Yep, all he had to do was nothing, and he couldn't even do that right. Anyway, moving on swiftly, it's time for the return of an old familiar face, and for once I don't mean everyone's favourite hero, Dave. This replay was sent in by Sweet Steve Esther in the Italian Tier 9 heavy cruiser the Brindisi. He plays on the North American server. But the reason Steve sent this in, well, let me just draw your attention down to the bottom of the enemy team list. Oh yeah, it's Angry Turtle. He's back, and he still sucks. What do you mean, who's Angry Turtle? He's quite famous on the North American server, where he, well, I want to say plays, but that's kind of the point. He doesn't play, he just trolls. A couple of weeks back I did a video, The Great Gonzo, where there was a conqueror on the team who basically drove up to the top left corner of the map, sat there the entire game doing nothing other than spamming well done in chat every time a member of his team died. That was Angry Turtle. He's the Schrader of World of Warships. What do you mean, who's Schrader? How long have you been here? Surely everybody knows Schrader from World of Tanks. He's the guy who spawned the infamous unfair plane he Kemp Bush meme. Anyway, I'm getting slightly off topic. Shortly after that Great Gonzo video going up, Angry Turtle started appearing in the comments section of my videos, where he was not a happy hedgehog. And I thought that was fantastic, although he's gone quiet of late, which was kind of sad really. Because it's been a long time since I had a dedicated troll in the comments of my videos. I mean, you guys troll me hard, but it's not the same. You guys do it for fun. You know, you don't mean any harm by it. It's all good-natured. Every time I get something wrong, you're all happy to jump on the bandwagon and point it out, even when I haven't actually gotten something wrong. But, you know, I take it in the spirit in which it was intended. It's been a really, really long time since I had a dedicated troll who kept coming back video after video in the comments, venting his spleen all over me and getting really mad. And I thought Angry Turtle was going to be that guy. But, well, he doesn't appear to have an awful lot of staying power because he's gone quiet recently. Hopefully, today's video is going to change that. So do keep an eye open for him, and if you should happen to spot him back in the comments, be sure to give him a good old-fashioned salt mines welcome. You know, technically in the previous video where I pointed out what a massive douche canoe this guy was, I was in technical breach of the terms of the World Warships Community Contributor Program, because we're not supposed to, you know, point out when arseholes are being arseholes. We were supposed to just pretend that it wasn't happening and ignore the fact that a douche canoe was being a douche canoe. We weren't supposed to name and shame even when somebody so richly deserved it. However, I have now very publicly burnt my bridges with the World of Warships Community Contributor Program. I am no longer beholden to or associated with the liars and scumbags who develop and publish this otherwise fantastic game, which means I can say and do whatever I damn well want without any fear of repercussion. All of which is a roundabout way of saying, Angry Turtle, if you're watching, and I know you are, you picked a real bad time to pop up on my radar. The thing is, if you play on the North American server, I'm not actually showing you anything here that you don't already know. Angry Turtle is infamous over there. Just check out what happens in chat when people realise he's in the battle. Here's the thing though, and bear in mind this is only the second time I have actually seen him, but it appears that, well, Angry Turtle is a douche canoe of many talents. His dedication to the art of being a cockholster takes on many forms. Sometimes he spams battle chat. Sometimes he restricts his comments only to his own team's chat channel. Sometimes he doesn't bother polluting chat at all. But every time, without exception, he is always going to be more used to his team dead than alive. And this battle is no exception. We're now approaching the end of this battle, and Sweet Steve Esther's team are in no danger whatsoever of losing. But a very suspicious looking smokescreen right on the bottom end of the map border is beginning to draw their attention. And it's worth pointing out that if you take a look at the minimap, Angry Turtle's USS Kid has not been spotted once this entire game. Now I may be jumping to conclusions here. It could be that Angry Turtle is in fact a destroyer player par excellence, and is simply that good at avoiding detection, even with 2 radars and at least 1 long-range and long-duration hydro on Sweet Steve Esther's team. But that being the case, you do owe it to yourself to ask this one question. If he is that good, why is he sitting inside a smokescreen on the map border with an Ohio and a Brindisi closing down to assured detection range? An Ohio and a Brindisi that he knows is there because he's shooting at them. Why, if he's that good at being undetected because he's such a fantastic destroyer player, did he not bug out minutes ago in order to avoid getting into the situation where he's got an Ohio and a Brindisi that he knows is coming, getting so close that he's proximity detected through his smokescreen? The only logical conclusion I can come to is that he's not that good a destroyer player, that he does in fact completely suck, and he was just hiding there the whole time, doing what he does best. Absolutely nothing. And I have to say, based on the available evidence, that does seem to me like the most plausible explanation. Angry Turtle, welcome back. Hope to see you in the comments real soon. Anyway, we're going to finish off today's video extravaganza by joining Ike van der Dijk, and with a name like that he must be Dutch, in a Tier 6 ranked battle in the French Tier 6 destroyer, the Eagle. The Eagle's a premium destroyer, by the way, but please don't take this to mean that I'm recommending you rush out and buy one. I mean, the Eagle's not a bad ship. It's not a great ship, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. The thing is, it costs money, and there are plenty of perfectly fine, and in fact, great Tier 6 ships that you don't have to spend a penny on. For example, the ship has great survivability. It's got a very, very large health pool for my Tier 6 destroyer standards. The gun reload speed isn't bad either. I mean, she can almost fire as fast as a Farragut. She's got extremely good maximum damage on her torpedoes. They're pretty fast, and the range is okay. And her concealment, unlike a lot of other French destroyers, is actually pretty good. Unfortunately, she is about as agile as a brick. Her shells have low muzzle velocity. The gun turrets turn even slower than Japanese destroyers. And her anti-aircraft armament is pitiful even by the standards of a game where even good anti-aircraft firepower is increasingly irrelevant. So there's plenty to like about the Eagle, but there's plenty to not like about the Eagle too. If you absolutely must get your French Tier 6 destroyer itch scratched, there's the Eagle, but there's also the Japon, which is 100% free, and also gets access to a main battery reload booster. It's your money, spend it wisely. So, Tier 6 Ranked Battle. So, the thing that makes this particular season of Ranked... Oh, hang on a second, the Fire and Fury talent just activated. So, that must mean that Dick is running the French legendary commander. What's his name? Philippe Aubignon? The Fire and Fury talent activates every time you get a capture or assisted in capture ribbon, and increases the fire chance of your main guns by 1%. But as I was saying, the thing that makes this new season of Ranked Battle distinct from all of the other seasons of Ranked Battles is that this is the first time we've seen submarines on the live server. I think it's fairly safe to say that the community's opinion on the implementation of submarines has been split fairly solidly right down the middle. Some people think they're okay, some people don't. I think I tend to fall into the some people don't category. Because I was a big fan of submarines at first, when they were in their own game mode. Do you remember the Halloween special from a couple of years back that first saw the introduction of submarines? And this was something that Wargaming had been doing for a while. They'd test out new game modes during special events, when it didn't really make a difference. And submarines worked just fine in that Halloween special. It didn't matter if they were overpowered or broken, you were only fighting bots. It didn't matter if they completely defied the laws of physics and screamed along underwater at 50 knots. It was a fantasy game mode. It didn't matter. Unfortunately, this is a live ranked battle season, and it kind of does matter here. So when I see Type 7C U-boats like the U-69 present in this battle, screaming along at 25 knots, when in reality they could only do 2/3 of that speed when surfaced, and less than a quarter of that speed submerged, the history nerd inside me just kind of weeps quiet tears of frustration. Oh look, there's one now. And of course Wargaming famously said that if submarines didn't work on the live server they would drop them like a hot potato. That of course was a lie, because they've spent so much money and so much time developing submarines now that they're going to make them work. You know, in the same way that they made aircraft carriers work. And it seems that the only way they can make submarines work is to take that extremely round submarine-shaped peg and hammer it until it reaches breaking point, until they can finally wedge it firmly into that live server square-shaped hull. And so this, of course, is why you have submarines that scream around at speeds in excess of 30 knots, firing torpedoes that threaten to break the sound barrier, because that's the only way they can make them work. Because they promised that if they couldn't make them work, they would drop them. You see, we all made the simple and understandable error of assuming that when Wargaming said they weren't going to put submarines in unless they could make them work, that submarines wouldn't get put in unless Wargaming found a way of making them work. But you see, our definition of submarines working and Wargaming's definition of submarines working are two entirely different things. We'll come on to that in a second. Notice that Ike is very, very wisely shooting at the T-61 and using his depth charges, there they go, on the submarine. He can't actually hit the submarine anymore, it's invulnerable because it's dived. But it's not invulnerable to depth charges. And he's got it. But yeah, Wargaming's definition of making submarines work is a bit like Wargaming's definition of aircraft carriers being a success. You see, we're the idiots who wrongfully assumed that defining whether or not the aircraft carrier rework had been a success or not would depend not just on how many people were playing the new aircraft carriers and how much fun the new aircraft carriers were to play, but also how much fun they were to play against, because this is World of Warships, not World of Aircraft Carriers. The poor deluded, simple and naive fools that we are, we didn't understand that the only metric Wargaming was concerned about was how many people were playing the new aircraft carriers compared to the old aircraft carriers, and by that metric and that metric alone, Wargaming has judged the carrier rework to be an outstanding success. And I can't help but feel that they're taking a similar approach to submarines, because if the only way you can make submarines work on the live server outside of their own dedicated game modes is to batter the laws of physics to within an inch of its life, or should that be their lives? You get the point. Until you have submarines travelling 4 times faster than they have any right to, firing torpedoes that threaten to break the sound barrier. Guided torpedoes, by the way. That's right, homing torpedoes. I'm not saying homing torpedoes weren't a thing. The Germans did develop homing torpedoes in the middle of the Battle of the Atlantic. But, well, here's the thing. These World War II vintage acoustic homing torpedoes did exactly what they said on the tin. They homed in on acoustics. The sounds, the engine sounds of incoming destroyer escorts. And in order to do that, they had to be moving slowly enough so that their hydrophones weren't drowned out by the sound of their own motors. So, yeah, the exact opposite of what we have here in World of Supersonic Torpedoes. And even despite all of this, even despite battering the laws of physics into submission in order to make submarines work, they're still shit. They're just really bad destroyers that are only good for one thing and one thing only. Oh, nice dodge there, by the way, Ike. Jolly well done, sir. But yes, the only thing that submarines are good for, at least in their current iteration, is pissing off battleship players. Because of this homing mechanic and the sonar ping thing that they do, where you can hit a target with an aimed sonar ping and your torpedoes will home in on them. Nice kill, by the way, Ike. You probably want to get out of there now, though. But a second ping in the same location basically turns your supersonic underwater missiles into armor-piercing supersonic underwater missiles that completely bypass citadel protection and score guaranteed citadels on your targets. But unlike aircraft carriers, more than 2 years after the aircraft carrier rework, against which there is still no counterplay, there is a counterplay against this submarine sonar ping lock-on mechanic. You just use your damage control. No, really, that's it. You send your damage control teams to the part of the ship where the sonar ping has hit, with their little bags of softwood wedges and hammers, and they hammer away at the bulkhead and clear the sonar ping. That's how Wargaming thinks sonar works. Yeah? Square pegs, round holes. Yeah. The problem here, of course, is that if you're on a battleship and you've been double pinged by a submarine, you can clear that double ping by using your damage control. But your damage control's on a very long cooldown, and the sonar ping isn't. So all the submarine has to do is wait 20 seconds and do it again. So now, when you eat the citadels from the torpedoes that he launches 20 seconds later, assuming you survive, your damage control's on cooldown, and you're probably experiencing a double flood. Oh, and good luck extinguishing any fires that you've suffered in the meantime as well. Although possibly I'm exaggerating the scale of the problem here, because, I mean, nobody likes firing torpedoes or high explosive shells at battleships, right? Oh yeah. Yeah, this is Wargaming's idea of making submarines work. A complete disregard for the laws of physics. Guided homing supersonic underwater missiles. All of which combined still only succeed in making submarines good for one thing and one thing only, and that's upsetting battleship players. They have such an incredibly narrow focus, they are good for absolutely nothing else. They're just really bad destroyers. And the best thing is here, and I've been saving the best till last, because honestly this is absolutely hilarious. I've been saying that submarines are good for one thing and one thing only, and that's upsetting battleship players. I haven't said that submarines are good for one thing and one thing only, and that's upsetting people in big ships. Because if you thought that the submarine was going to be the long-awaited and overdue counter to aircraft carriers, think again, sunshine. If you thought that submarines were going to be able to stealthily sneak up to and torpedo those pesky aircraft carriers, you clearly haven't been playing the same game as we have for the last 2 years. Because there is no way Wargaming were going to allow their favourite ship class to come under any kind of threat with the introduction of submarines. Do you remember how you can clear the submarine sonar lock-on ping by using your damage control? Remind me again how aircraft carrier damage control works. It's automatic, isn't it? It lasts forever, doesn't it? There's a story I keep telling about why aircraft carriers have automatic consumables, and this is an absolutely 100% true story. I'm sure people think I'm making it up. But I was told by the developers themselves that the reason why aircraft carriers have automatic consumables is because Wargaming honestly think that aircraft carrier players are too stupid to be able to tell the difference between ship consumables and aircraft consumables. Now, while it is 100% true that that is what I was told, I do accept the possibility that I may have been told a lie just to get me to shut up and stop complaining about how utterly stupid aircraft carrier consumables were. That would actually be consistent with the level of contempt in which Wargaming holds its community contributors. However, the fact remains that aircraft carrier consumables are automatic, so if a submarine does manage to sneak up to an aircraft carrier, hits that sonar ping, it automatically triggers the carrier's damage control, which lasts an entire minute, which means for the next minute, none of the torpedoes launched by that submarine are going to track or do citadel damage. So if you were hoping that submarines were going to be the long-awaited counter to aircraft carriers, yeah, I hope you enjoyed being disappointed. Oh, and by the way, since we're sort of vaguely on the subject of aircraft carriers here, can we just take a moment to acknowledge the superb support and assistance that the friendly Ark Royal has been giving to Ike here? If not for the repeated fighter consumables that he's been dropping on Ike's head in order to protect him from the enemy Furious, he would absolutely be dead and would not have earned the Kraken Unleashed that he's about to get when he finishes off that enemy New Mexico. And the one final thing that I will say about submarines here, note that, well, with less than 40,000 damage done, Ike's already on 4 kills, well, 5 now, and 41,000 damage after finishing off the New Mexico. Now admittedly this is a ranked battle, which he's just won, congratulations Ike. So there are only 7 players on each team, so you shouldn't be expecting huge damage totals, but you're definitely not going to get huge damage totals, and therefore huge amounts of credit and experience, the more submarines there are around. Even though Ike did all of the damage to the T-61, well done, and all of the damage to the U-69, but the U-69 only had half of the health of a same tier destroyer to begin with, 8,300. Oh yeah. Never mind. I'm sure Wargaming will find a way of making it work. Just remember that Wargaming's definition of making it work and the definition of the rest of the English-speaking world are almost certainly not going to be the same thing. Bearing that in mind, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Have a great day, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.